Okay, here we go once again. And good news when I pushed the right button, everything came on, the microphone, the camera, and I even have my cat up here on the desk with me. She's getting in the way of everything, but I can do it around her. I can just lay my notes on her. And so here we go. Playing music. You are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is the Midnight Skeptic, show number 118. Damn, I've been doing this for a long time. And it'll be a broadcast on kpca.fm worldwide on Sunday at 9 Pacific Standard Time, as usual, and on 103.3 FM locally, as always. And then as soon as I get done with this, meaning the camera and everything, I will download it onto YouTube. So I don't know, it'll probably be 10 or 11 o'clock tonight before it actually gets up on YouTube. Oh, it's so good to be woke. It's good to be woke. It's so good to be woke in the morning. Yes, the Midnight Skeptic is definitely woke. Are you listening, Ron DeFascist in Florida? Governor Ron DeFascist's favorite word as he does battle with the evil forces of Mickey Mouse. Ooh, may Disney prevail. Yay for Florida high school students and college students. I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay, shout outs. Okay. Spotify and Anchor for international distributors of the Midnight Skeptic, about a dozen or so people worldwide. The EU, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Russia, a couple up in Canada, and one in France now. And still, I don't know, one guy in Russia. Okay. Locally, John Crowley at the Aquas Cafe. Oh, there goes my cat. She has gotten bored with sitting on the desk. Okay. Tom Gaffey at the Phoenix, the hangout for alternative teens. And Project Censored with Mickey Huff, Nolan Higdon, and Andy Lee Roth. They give you the news that didn't make the news. They have an annual book called Project Censored. Well, this next one will be 2023. They have a book called The State of the Free Press, 2023. I haven't looked at it. I should. So I don't know if it's the same thing as Project Censored 2023 or not, or whether they have the same things, but you know. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, Dave and Rosie up in Sacramento, Kevin and Lori and Katati, Tom and Nancy here in Petaluma, Tim Conrad, one of the best photographers in the world. He was in my high school class up in Sonora and lives down in Petaluma right now. Okay, Rich and Kathy in Sebastopol. Rich, I hope your back heals up after the surgery real well. Let's see, Dennis and Megan down in Tiburon, that rich people's enclave. San Francisco, Yvonne and Rick Stan and Kathy down in Pacifica, plus Susan Miller, Miss Progressive down there. Aunt Jackie and her two daughters, Samantha and Melanie, down in L.A. and Arizona. My brother Brandon and his wife Mina, their daughter Andrea, who's a nurse. Take care of yourself, Andrea. And Tim and their three little sons. I think 8, 6, and 4 now. Boy, they're getting up there. Okay, and Karina Hilliard, the snake removal technician of Patagonia, Arizona. Reno, Chanda and Michael Cabrera. In Arkansas, Shannon Reed. Florida, oh, happy birthday, Shannon, by the way. Okay. Florida, Amelia, Nelson and Alice. North Carolina, Dr. Dave Rubin. The GOAT, greatest of all time, pulmonary doctor. Long Island, Geraldine Goldfinger. And the Sonora crowd. Robert and Colleen, Bob and Sandy Fisher, Brad and Martha, their kids. Martha, you're a nurse, but take care of yourself. COVID is coming back. A new variation. Darrell, Judy May, Leonidas Maciel, Kathy Francis, Lynn Quayle, and John Gleason and his two daughters, Tiffany and Jennifer, and all the way down to Mexico City, Rosmalia Lopez Negrete. She listens in, every now and then. Okay, the meat of the program now. Grifter bad news. Ultra-right beer. I mean, this is not a joke. That is the label of it. It's not available in stores yet. The anti-woke beer is available by mail now. If you buy Bud Light, you might, and this is a couple of comments about the ultra-right beer. If you buy Bud Light, you might, quote, trans your kids. Trans has now become a verb in the ignorant world of GOP MAGA heads, I guess. Why? And the amount of fear and hatred amongst the GOP MAGA head extremist right wing is, I just don't understand what has generated all this hate and fear of the trans community. Is such a small, tiny percentage of the population in this country. And believe me, the Republicans are taking advantage of this fear of transing your kids. Okay, that they're making a political statement about it or political issue of it. And I'll go into a lot of the bills that are coming up and all of that kind of crap. Okay. Okay, new topic. Dr. Joseph Ladapo, Surgeon General of Florida. I'm calling you a quack. And I don't care who tries to sue me over this, or even you. You don't listen to this, but you're a quack. A short time ago, you cited evidence, quote unquote, that young men from 18 to 39 should skip the COVID-19 vaccine. The evidence wasn't just bad science, it was a deliberate effort to mislead the public, or at least Republicans. Florida health officials deleted, at your behest, key data and statistics from a study on safety of mRNA COVID-19 vaccines to indicate that it was safe, that people should take the vaccine. Okay. Academic dishonesty committed by you, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, is lying by omission. It is scientific fraud. You, Dr. Joseph Ladapo of Florida, are a quack. Okay, new topic. Bad news, I bet you thought Florida couldn't get any worse. The Florida Board of Education, and I put education in quotes in my notes, has expanded to all grade levels, K through 12, in public schools, the ban on teaching gender identity and sexuality. And this is a quote from one of the education board members. Florida teachers in grades 4 through 12 shall not intentionally provide classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity. A parent may opt their child out of a reproductive health course. This is a Christian thing. It is a fundamentalist Christian thing to not provide sex education for students. Abstinence only is what they teach, and which brings into question the nature of teaching. If a teacher is up in front of a classroom and just says, just don't do it, when the subject of sex comes up, that's not teaching, that's admonishing, that's an attempt at indoctrination. Like GOP MAGA heads are afraid that moderate, liberal, progressive teachers might impart to their students. Okay, Florida Chancellor for K through 12 public schools, Paul Burns, said that sexual orientation and gender identity are unlikely to be mentioned given that, quote unquote, abstinence only is the required expectation of what we teach in our schools, unquote. This new rule builds on the Parental Rights in Education Act. Teachers may lose their Florida credentials for violating that rule. And in my notes here, I put a Q with a question mark for a question. What constitutes teaching? Does mentioning something constitute teaching? Does assigning a couple of pages in a textbook, is that teaching? Is that having the kids take a test on what you've said? Is that teaching? What if, again, I've said this on dozens of shows, if a kid, and now it'll be any grade between K through 12, comes up to the teacher and asks, Miss Brown, who is that lady's picture on your desk? What is she supposed to say if that's her fiance? If that's her wife? Is that her girlfriend? What is she supposed to say? Okay, if she answers the question honestly, is that teaching? Back in 1978, here in California, we had the Briggs Initiative, Proposition 6, that, if passed, would have fired all gay and lesbian teachers and not hired any more of them. Well, it failed. California, even though we have a few, what I would call now MAGA heads, not many, but a few, it just didn't pass. And California, in general, has been relatively liberal and progressive and democratic ever since then. Sips? Okay, enough of that. New topic. Mo Texas bad news. GOP MAGA head Republicans in Texas legislature are targeting Harris County with a bill, and it's Senate Bill 1993, that would allow the Secretary of State of Texas to overturn election results in counties in Texas with 2.7 million population or more. Why did they come up with that figure? Because Harris County is the only county that has more than that. And they are basically a Democratic leaning voting county in Texas. So, and it has the town of Houston in it. If the Secretary of State, he can overturn the election if the Secretary of State, quote, I'm quoting from the bill, has good cause to believe that at least 2% of the county's polling places, meaning Harris County's polling places, ran out of usable ballots during voting hours, unquote. All right, why 2.7 million? Because Dallas County leans Republican, and they have only 2.6 million population. Also a bill, Republican-sponsored, of course, was advanced to allow the Secretary of State to suspend county election administrators when a complaint is filed. Well, of course there's going to be some MAGA head in the county that will dutifully file a complaint. The League of Women Voters, that liberal organization, said these bills by Republicans exclusively are fraught with potential abuse. Of course they are. That's the intent of these Republican-sponsored bills. Okay, new topic. Bad news. Idaho House Bill 182 makes it allowable for, quote-unquote, public prayer for school employees and teachers. Idaho's school employees and teachers at public schools, charter schools, or state universities, quote, may pray at any time he is free to engage in personal conversations or other personal conduct. This bill was introduced and it will be passed and signed to allow for football coaches to gather on the 50-yard line after the game with his football playing sheep gathered around him and praying to the Lord. That's what it's for. And a football player that has no religious beliefs, or maybe is Jewish or Muslim or whatever, may not want to join the prayer circle. And do you think he'll get more or less playing time if he sits on the team bench? That's a rhetorical question. Also, no institution shall take, quote, shall take adverse action or discriminate against anyone refusing to participate in such prayer. Well, they put that in the bill just to make it sound better. Of course, the players who don't participate will have their playing time reduced. GOP MAGA head Republicans think that lefties, progressives, liberals like me are just stupid and don't see this. Of course we see it. Okay. This is likely to have an intimidating and coercive effect on impressionable students. This bill, in the Midnight Skeptic's opinion, my opinion, is to allow team prayers in the middle of the football field or any other athletic field or court. Okay. New topic, Montana bad news. Montana's only transgender House of Representative member, Zoe Zephyr, she's a Democrat from District 100, was not allowed to speak on the House floor by House Speaker Matt Regier, capital Regier. He's a Republican from the 4th District, because of Zephyr's comments during debate on a bill that would include binary definitions, male and female, into the state code and deny gender-affirming care to trans youth. Okay, good youth news. Okay, there were 300 school walkouts across the state of Florida Friday of the 21st. Okay, today's Tuesday. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago. Okay, 300 school walkouts. That's not 300 students. That's students from 300 different schools. Okay, to protest. What were they walking out for? They were protesting the expansion of the Don't Say Gay law up through 12th grade. Well, good for them. In 12th grade are seniors in high school, and teachers are not supposed to mention to them that there's gay people in this country, that there's transgender people and kids in this country. If we don't mention it, if we pass laws against teachers mentioning it, then they'll never know about it and won't be transed either or turned gay. Oh, geez. GOP MAGA head Republicans are the most ignorant, stupid people that shouldn't have a hand in governing our country. And okay, today, President Biden announced that he was running again in 2024 for the presidency, and he wants to finish the job of, his words, saving the soul of America. Well, saving it from who? Republicans. And of course, I'm going to be voting for him, and I wish him luck. And this country needs to be saved from stupid, ignorant GOP MAGA head Republicans. Okay. I'm off my notes. Okay. They're protesting the expansion of the Don't Say Gay law to include up to seniors in high school. The organization of these walkouts is called Walkout 2, the numeral 2, Learn. Walkout to Learn. And it was organized in South Florida there by Xander Maretz. And I've talked about him before, like about 1.5 years or 2 years ago on this. And I recognized the name when it surfaced again when I was looking up, well, who organized these student walkouts? Okay. Anyway, it was him. He's 19 now. I think he's a freshman at some college now. And it was high school and college students that staged these walkouts. Okay. And it's a 3-step process. Okay. At noon on Friday, step 1 was the walkout. Just get up out of your classroom seats and walk out and gather at the student commons. Okay. And number 2, assuming that almost all of them have smartphones, the students will be texted a link with a pledge to use their vote to support students' rights at the next election, whenever that is in Florida. And their text number, phone number, I guess, will be entered into a database for Walkout to Learn, to urge all of the people that have walked out to vote, whenever the next election comes out. Okay, step 3 is to listen to a 5-minute banned history lesson from one of their peers who have been trained by Harvard students about probably, it didn't specify, but Black history. Okay. Whew. Bad news. Okay. Is the Republican Party now unredeemable? When did they start going off the rails? Now, the next stuff will be a brief history of how the Republican Party got to be this way. And the gist of it is that the Republican Party was infected with the hateful Christians, and I'll tell you who they are. Okay. When did the GOP start going off the rails? Okay. In the opinion of the Midnight Skeptic, me, it goes back to the 1969 and the presidential election of Ronald Reagan versus Jimmy Carter. Due to the rise of conservatism following Reagan's victory, historians say this election led to a political realignment, beginning with which began really with Barry Goldwater's 1964 campaign. Jerry Falwell's Moral Majority, which was founded in 1978, is credited with giving Reagan 2/3 of the white evangelical vote. Falwell's group bought $10 million in commercials on Southern radio and TV to brand Jimmy Carter, which he's a good man, brand Jimmy Carter as a, quote, traitor to the South and no longer a Christian. That was their message. What does it mean to be a traitor to the South? That means you view blacks as, my God, human beings that should be treated with respect. Republicans, after LBJ signed the Voting Rights Act in 1964, and the Civil Rights Act in 1965, Dixiecrats, which were a branch of the Democratic Party back in those days, they flocked to the Republican Party, which is kind of where we are today. And as far as I'm concerned, 95% of Republicans are just out and out racists. Now, if you're Republican, you're not necessarily a MAGA head. There are Republicans, and I'm talking about the Lincoln Project, that group of Republicans who just couldn't stomach the orange sociopathic bloat bag, formed their own political action group and worked to defeat the orange sociopathic bloat bag in the 2020 election. So they are, in my mind, honorable Republicans, thinking Republicans, caring Republicans. Now, we need more of those. Unfortunately, like I've said, and I have no official statistics to back this up, but I would say that 95% of Republicans are just out and out racist and suffused with fear and hatred of the LGBTQ community, especially the trans community. Liberals just want to trans our kids. The word trans is rapidly becoming a verb in MAGA head circles. Okay, that is just water with a healthy dose of lime juice in it. Okay, I'm off my notes again. Okay. Ronald Reagan and his conservative advisors advised him to adopt supply-side economics, which is lowering of taxes, mainly on the wealthy and their corporations, decreasing government regulations, such as worker safety rules. We don't want safety rules. That costs money. We can always replace workers. And, lessening environmental harm. Who cares if we destroy mountains and forests and streams and the ocean? As long as we make money. Wow. That's a capitalist mantra. Whew. My throat's getting dried out quicker than usual today. All right. Oh, and the most important thing is allowing free trade. In other words, unbridled capitalism. In theory, according to the Laffer curve, lowering taxes on corporations and the wealthy business owners will increase government revenue because of they'll make more things, sell more things, make more profits. Okay, this is disputed by most leading economists. Reagan's most horrible and far-reaching quote, and this is a quote that he said directly, "Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem." And he delivered that line in his stentorian actor's voice, and it went over well It sounds great, but it has been the source of a lot of bad news for our country. Okay. Government is the problem. Mendacious, malicious, right-wing, so-called patriots who say, get big government off our backs. All right. Or, let the eagle fly. Harken back to this Reagan statement. Hardcore capitalists make use of these tropes to enrich themselves at the expense of the middle and lower classes, of course. Okay, George H.W. Bush's one term right after Reagan carried on this. I can't read my writing. George H.W. Bush's one term right after Reagan carried on this marrying between the GOP and the hateful religious right. Remember George H.W. Bush's quickly broken promise, read my lips, no new taxes. This was at the 1988 Republican Convention. In the 1992 presidential campaign, Pat Buchanan repeatedly cited this broken promise. Pat Buchanan was trying to get the Republican nomination. Bush signed, the omnibus, this is a long title for this bill. The Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1990, which also raised taxes, and it raised multiple taxes, including individual income rate. I mean, essentially meaning the middle class, from 28% to 31%. And oh, God, excuse me. There was something that I wanted to get on a note pile, and I jerked out my cord here. Okay, back and ready to go. There's a blank spot in my notes. And right during and after the George H.W. Bush administration, it marked the rise of the private jet evangelical old white guys that just made tons of money that were not taxed at all. Okay, here's a few of them. Okay, I've already mentioned Jerry Falwell Ministries / Liberty Council / Liberty University. Okay, his revenue, and this was in 2012, this piece of paper came out. I held it up for the YouTube people. Okay, his revenue, 639,521,000. I'm rounding these off. Okay, number 2, the Christian Broadcasting Network / Regent University, founded by TV preacher Pat Robertson, mixes Christian fundamentalism and far-right politics on a daily television show and regularly attacks America's public education system, calls for tax aid for private religious schools, and insists that the Constitution says nothing about the separation of church and state. Oh, boy. Okay, number 3, I'm going to do, there's a whole list of about 10 of them here, and I'm not going to go through them all, just the worst of the worst. It's arranged by revenue. So, okay, focus on the family. Large family ministry founded by James Dobson. He takes far-right views on numerous social issues, LGBTQ people. Dobson issues personal endorsements of religious right candidates and insists church-state separation is not in the Constitution. Well, they don't want to be taxed. There is supposedly a law against these Christian creeps from directly endorsing political candidates, but James Dobson does it anyway. Will anything be done about it? No. Okay, and now here's a dangerous organization, Alliance Defending Freedom, Christian lawyers. In recent years, the ADF, headed by Ed Meese acolyte Alan Sears, has worked aggressively to overturn a federal law that bars tax-exempt churches and other nonprofits from intervening in partisan elections. Now, they have 47,688,000 in revenue. All right. The last one I'm going to mention. All the others, I know you will have heard of them, but I'm not going to dwell on them. American Center for Law and Justice / Christian Advocates Serving Evangelism. Okay, their revenue about $58 million. Far-right legal outfits run by religious right attorney Jay Sekulow, an ally of TV preacher Pat Robertson. The group attempts to force fundamentalism into public schools. They all do this, and attack reproductive freedom. In other words, they claim that they're pro-life, but they're not anti-gun regulation. And they're against LGBTQ rights. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay. And which kind of brings us to today. Okay, there was an interlude of the Tea Party Patriots. Do you remember them, who protested anything that had to do with Barack Obama when he got elected? And some of my Republican relatives and friends just said that the Tea Party patriot organizations were just against raising taxes. No, they weren't. I remember seeing some of the horrible signs that they held up in 2009 when Obama was elected. I'm not going to describe some of them, but they dwelt on his supposedly African heritage. And the orange sociopathic bloat bag was the birther-in-chief. You remember the birther movement? Racists, all of them. Okay, more sips. Okay, bad news. A leader of the Pastors for Trump, Sean Feucht. I'll spell his last name, capital Feucht. And I've talked about him before. It's been about a year since I mentioned him, which was founded by Jackson LaMayer in Oklahoma in December of 22. That's just, 6 months ago. Said, okay, Sean Feucht is saying this at LaMayer's church there in Oklahoma. Quote, their movement is advocating for God to control everything. Now, that's a direct quote. He embraced the label of Christian nationalism, as have a number of prominent pro-Trump conservative evangelicals. And this is a quote continuing from Sean Feucht. I guess he was invited to give a sermon or something at Jackson LaMayer's church. That is spelled capital LAHMEYER. I don't know. Okay, continuing the quote. It's all part of the king coming back. That's what we're practicing for, Feucht told the crowd in attendance, quote, we want believers to be the ones writing the laws in this country. We wouldn't be a disciple of Jesus if we didn't believe that. Okay, new topic. Oh, man. Bad but useless news. Okay. Representative Greg Steube, a Republican, of course, from Florida, put House of Representatives, this is the national level, House of Representatives Bill 734 in the House of Representatives. His bill, and this is what he calls it, quote, the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. And he introduced it April 20th, 2023, this year, April 20th. That was, 5 days ago. Okay. It passed the House on Thursday, the 20th. On the same Thursday, it was introduced, and it'll go nowhere. It won't get past the Senate, and certainly President Biden wouldn't sign it if it did. Okay, it targets students K through 12 as well as public universities that get federal funding. GOP MAGA head bullying at its worst. Of the 340 million population in the United States, 1.3 million adults and 300,000 youths from 13 to 17 identify as transgender. And that's about 1.4% of youth and 0.5% of the total population. Kids assigned male at birth who have gender dysphoria, which is a real thing, Republicans. Are you listening, you stupid jerks? And identify as female are about roughly half of trans youth, and of those who wish to pursue athletics of any kind are an incredibly small number. Okay, now there's an organization, a hateful organization called Save Women's Sports, an organization that is for banning trans athletes from girls' sports at any level. They identified, and this is an anti-trans organization, they identified only 5 transgender athletes competing on girls' teams K through 12. There is no minority group so small that GOP MAGA head Republicans won't be moved to bully them. Trans kids before middle school are essentially the same physically and athletically. All right? All right. So I talked about... okay, so what do students such as Becky Pepper Jackson of West Virginia that I talked about 2 weeks ago on show number 116, she was a 12-year-old runner who was identified as female since the 4th grade. She just wants to participate on her middle school girls track and cross-country team. She's 12, and these old white guy in their gray suits and ties that are Republicans, they're coming after you, Becky. Fear the Republicans. There essentially is no difference in athletic ability up until boys start going into puberty. And as a matter of fact, girls go into puberty about a year, roughly, before boys do. And testosterone is one of the factors, maybe even the main factor. I'm not an endocrinologist, so don't send me hate mail. But it's a complicated issue. But I guarantee you that up through middle school, there's really no difference. There's no excuse for stupid-ass MAGA head states to say kindergarten through 12. They can all just compete together on the same team. Okay. All right. Good news, and I won't dwell on this a lot, even though the guy is a complete turd. Tucker Carlson has been put out on the Fox News trash heap as of 4/24. That was it was Monday when I found out about it. Maybe, I don't know what the inner workings of Fox News is, but he's no longer there. Good. And it's not going to be a earth-shaking, country-changing, event. It's just Tucker Carlson. We'll get over it, and we won't miss his hatred and bile. Oh boy, I'm running out of time. Okay, Tucker Carlson, good news. Like whack-a-mole, he'll pop up somewhere. His ignorant bile will be put to use on some right-wing fringy outlet that can afford to pay him a little bit. But he won't be hurting for money. He's rich. He's made tons of money at Fox News. May he never darken a TV screen again. Too much to hope for. Okay. Okay. I promised my listeners out there that I would try to end every show with some good news. Well, I've got some good news. Mallory McMorrow, she's a Democrat from Michigan, and she's the state Senate Majority Whip. Okay. Tudor Dixon from Michigan, she ran for governor and lost big time. What she ran on, okay, Tudor Dixon was a Republican, and the population of Michigan is about 10 million, and Tudor Dixon concentrated her run for governor on anti-trans political ads. Okay, well, it didn't work because she lost big time. And in Michigan, in all of Michigan, there are only 2 kids who applied for a waiver to play on girls' sports teams as transgenders. In the 2022 election, the Michigan GOP ran more ads about anti-trans issues than inflation issues or other kitchen table issues. Less in a poll. I don't know who took the poll, Gallup or somebody. Less than 5% of Michigan voters listed trans issues that would cause them to vote. Okay? It's, in the grand scheme of things, bullying the LGBTQ community is not popular with voters. Oh, I've got to play my out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, it's a few seconds after 58 minutes, so I've been cut off at KPCA 103.3 FM. But my YouTube people can still see me ranting on. I have just one thing for you guys to say out there, and that is to pet your cat. Okay, until next week, I will be back with you.